There's a particular kind of silence that only exists in small-town America. Not the silence of peace, not the silence of a town that's sleeping, the silence of a town that gave up. When you drive across this country, really drive it, on two-lane roads, through places the highway bypasses, you start to notice that the danger signs aren't always painted red. Sometimes they're painted in rust, in boarded windows, in gas stations with bars on the glass, in locals who make brief, careful eye contact and look away. Today, we're counting down 10 American towns where stopping, even briefly, is a risk you need to calculate before you take it. These aren't places invented for shock value. Their stories are backed by documented crime statistics, economic data, and historical record. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand something deeper than crime rates. You'll understand what happens when a country leaves a town behind. If this kind of real American storytelling is what you're here for, hit subscribe. New episodes drop regularly. Number 10. Bogalusa, Louisiana. The name itself is a warning. Bogalusa translates to dark water in Choctaw, and for this southeastern Louisiana town nestled deep in the pine forests, that name has proven prophetic. Bogalusa was built around a single economic engine, a massive paper mill that once employed most of the town's working population. When that mill downsized and its central role in the local economy collapsed, Bogalusa didn't slowly reinvent itself. It stagnated. And it's been stagnating ever since. Nearly 1 in 3 people in Bogalusa live in poverty. That's 2.5 times the national average. The violent crime rate is one of the highest in the nation across communities of all sizes, and the chance of becoming a victim of violent crime is 1 in 81. Locals have a nickname for it. They call it Bogalusa. During the pandemic years, a 15-year-old was killed at a birthday party. A 24-year-old nationally known musician was shot dead. 13 people were injured at a memorial for a man who had himself been shot. Residents stopped sitting on their own front porches because of stray bullets. Gas stations here close early. Many operate behind reinforced bars or sit completely abandoned. At night, stretches of the town simply go dark, not because of a curfew, but because there's nothing left open worth keeping the lights on for. This is not a place where danger announces itself loudly. It's a place where opportunity disappeared and nothing meaningful arrived to fill the space. Number 9. Tulia, Texas. Tulia sits on the high plains of the Texas Panhandle, flat, open, isolated. It's a farming town, easy to miss on a map, easy to drive past without a second thought. But in 1999, Tulia became one of the most disturbing legal stories in modern American history. In the early morning of July 23, 1999, law enforcement executed a drug sting that resulted in the arrest of 47 people, the vast majority of them Black, constituting approximately 10 to 20% of the entire African American population of the town. The operation was conducted by a single undercover officer, Tom Coleman, who spent 18 months undercover claiming to make over 100 drug purchases. In the arrests, authorities found no drugs, no drug paraphernalia, no weapons, and no significant amounts of cash. The only evidence against the defendants was Coleman's testimony. No video, no audio, no corroborating witnesses. Sentences ranged from 20 to over 360 years for alleged cocaine sales. The case eventually unraveled. With the help of legal advocates including the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, nearly all those convicted were pardoned by the governor in 2003, and a $5 million settlement was later negotiated, paid by the city of Amarillo. The federally funded narcotics task force responsible for the arrests was disbanded in 2004. A year later, Tom Coleman was found guilty of perjury, but the damage was done. Families were shattered, decades of lives were lost, and trust, fragile, essential trust between a community and its institutions, never fully returned. Today, Tulia is quiet, unnervingly quiet. Gas stations here don't feel dangerous, they feel watched. And in a town where the legal system itself once became the weapon, that feeling makes complete sense. Number 8. Stillwell, Oklahoma. Stillwell sells itself as the strawberry capital of the world. Fewer than 4,000 people, annual festivals, small-town Americana at its most surface-level charming. Beneath that surface is a different story entirely. Stillwell's violent crime rate runs over 5 times the national average, approximately 1,400 incidents per 100,000 residents. With a poverty rate soaring above 40%, Stillwell sits in Adair County, one of the poorest regions in Oklahoma, where decades of neglect have compounded into a crisis. Local law enforcement is severely underfunded and is fighting against active meth trafficking corridors and entrenched gang networks that have operated across generations. Drive through on a summer afternoon and you'll see porch swings, American flags, and dogs sleeping in the shade. Scroll through local Facebook community groups and you'll find a blunter message from residents themselves. Don't stop. Don't even slow down. That is the ultimate American small-town paradox. Charm up front, chaos directly behind it. Number 7. Hamtramck, Michigan. Hamtramck is unusual. It's a fully independent city, but it's completely surrounded by Detroit. 2 square miles, 28,000 people. One of the highest population densities in Michigan. When you compress poverty, chronic underemployment, and deep cultural friction into a space that tight, tension doesn't dissipate, it compounds. For decades, Hamtramck was defined by auto industry labor. Immigrant workers from across the world built lives here. Factory shifts, neighborhood bars, tight streets, community identity rooted in the rhythm of the plant. As that industrial era declined, the city transformed. Today, Hamtramck is one of the most culturally diverse cities in the country. Large communities from South Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe have rebuilt its character. That transformation kept the city alive economically, but it also created friction between longtime residents and newcomers, between old identities and new ones. In Hamtramck, situational awareness isn't a choice. It's something you learn early. Car break-ins are common. The violent crime rate runs above the national average, driven largely by aggravated assault and robbery. It's a city where you can get world-class food at midnight and still find yourself instinctively driving past one specific gas station without stopping. Number 6. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff sits along the Arkansas River, southeast of Little Rock. Timber, agriculture, manufacturing. These were the pillars that once made this city one of Arkansas's most important industrial centers. When those industries collapsed, Pine Bluff didn't fade slowly, it dropped. Today, Pine Bluff's violent crime rate stands at approximately 1,581 per 100,000 residents, nearly 5 times the national average. The overall crime rate is 189% above the national norm. The poverty rate sits at roughly 26%. Entire neighborhoods were left behind when the jobs disappeared. Public safety budgets shrunk as the tax base eroded. Locals have developed a grim kind of humor about it, joking that sirens have replaced cicadas as the city's unofficial evening soundtrack. Stand by the Arkansas River at sunset and you can feel the warmth, see the beauty in the landscape. But when that familiar, distant siren cuts through the evening air, you're reminded that this is a city carrying a wound it hasn't been given the tools to heal. Number 5. Wilmington, Delaware. On paper, Wilmington should be one of the most prosperous small cities in America. Positioned between Philadelphia and Baltimore along one of the wealthiest corridors in the country, it's home to major banks, corporate headquarters, and some of the most business-friendly legal structures in the nation. Billions of dollars move through this city every single day. Almost none of it stays. Just blocks from glass-walled banking towers are neighborhoods that have suffered from poverty, underfunded schools, and persistent violent crime for decades. Despite its relatively small population, Wilmington's homicide rate has repeatedly ranked among the highest per capita in the entire nation. The deception is what makes it genuinely unsettling. You can stand in the shadow of a billion-dollar financial institution and be less than a mile from streets where the violent crime rate has historically tripled the national average. In Wilmington, wealth doesn't trickle down, it's walled off. And when you pull off I-95 for gas, don't let the corporate logos on the horizon create a false sense of security. The danger here isn't hidden in back alleys. It's baked into the architecture of inequality itself. Number 4. Bessemer, Alabama. If you want to see where the American industrial dream went to die, go to Bessemer. Once a booming steel town known as the Marvel City, Bessemer was built on iron and heavy industry. For generations, those jobs defined daily life, sustained families, and gave the community a shared identity rooted in hard work and production. That era is long over. Bessemer now records approximately 2,368 violent incidents per 100,000 people, among the highest in the entire state of Alabama. Its crime risk factor is roughly 6 times the national median, driven largely by high poverty levels that continue to strain local law enforcement. Today, Bessemer's landscape is dominated by massive rusting industrial skeletons, the physical remnants of furnaces and factories that once employed thousands.
Those structures loom over residential blocks like prehistoric monuments to something that used to matter. With a total crime rate reported above 80 incidents per 1,000 residents, everyday tasks, walking to the store, letting children play outside, carry a weight of stress that most Americans never think about. Poverty hovers near 30%. Infrastructure is crumbling. And a city built for a population many times its current size leaves those who remain to live inside a place that feels too large and too empty all at once. That's not just danger, that's grief. Number 3. Oak Haven, Tennessee. Most people know Memphis for Beale Street and barbecue, but a few miles south of the neon lights sits Oak Haven, a community trapped between the world's busiest cargo airport and a sprawling network of interstate freight routes. There's no quaint main street here, no town square. Oak Haven is an industrial no man's land. Distribution centers, truck corridors, and residential blocks, where the air carries the permanent smell of jet fuel and diesel exhaust. It's a place where the world's goods pass through at speed, and where the people living there are stuck in a cycle that moves far slower. Memphis as a city recorded 2,501 violent crimes per 100,000 residents in 2024, nearly 6 times the national average. Oak Haven sits within that broader crisis, consistently ranking as one of the most dangerous specific neighborhoods in an already deeply troubled city. Poverty sits near 30%. Infrastructure is built for freight, not for families. The violence here has a mechanical quality. Robberies, carjackings, and assaults that happen under the constant roar of cargo planes overhead, in a community that the world literally flies over without noticing. Gas stations near the airport are fortified. Nobody lingers. The only thing moving faster than the cargo is the risk. Number 2. Miami, Arizona. No beaches, no ocean, no palm trees. Miami. Arizona is a copper mining town sitting in the high desert of eastern Arizona, surrounded by open-pit mines and exposed hillsides. It exists because of extraction, and it struggles because of it. When copper prices rise, Miami holds on. When they fall, the town contracts. Decades of extraction have left behind significant environmental damage, virtually no economic diversity, and a population that has been quietly declining for years. The overall crime rate runs at roughly 56 to 57 incidents per 1,000 residents in a typical year. Poverty sits around 32%. But what makes Miami genuinely disorienting isn't violence in the traditional sense. It's the gap between expectation and reality. Gas stations feel isolated, underused, serving a community that no longer knows what comes next. Miami. Arizona. makes this list not for chaos or spectacle, but for something subtler. It's proof that a name can be its own kind of deception, that branding, history, and hope don't always survive contact with economic reality. Number 1. Taos, New Mexico. Taos is described as a refuge. For generations, artists, writers, and seekers have made the journey here, drawn by the light, the landscape, and the promise of a different kind of life. The galleries are full. The homes are expensive. The town appears to have preserved something rare and beautiful. But that version of Taos is not the version most people actually live in. Per capita, Taos is one of the most violent small towns in the entire American Southwest. The violent crime rate runs roughly double the national average. Property crime, burglary and theft specifically, is a constant and looming reality. What makes Taos number 1 on this list isn't the statistics alone. It's the architecture of the neglect underneath them. Spotty street lighting, fragmented police jurisdiction, emergency response times that stretch dangerously thin because help is often miles away. Beneath the aesthetic image is a severe economic divide. Wages lag far behind housing costs. Longtime residents, the people who built this community's cultural identity, are being priced out of their own neighborhoods. Much of the surrounding population lives without reliable access to running water, electricity, or consistent employment. Taos is the most dangerous stop on this countdown, not because it looks like a danger zone. It's number 1 precisely because it doesn't. It reveals something harder to confront, that even the most beautiful places in America can be running systems that no longer serve the people who call them home. When a town prioritizes its image over its infrastructure, the gaps get filled by desperation. These 10 towns are not exceptions. They are reflections. They show what happens when industry walks away, when the justice system betrays the people it's meant to protect, when wealth flows through a community without ever stopping,